Yeah, take your time. I mean, not take your time, but. A legal obligation to live stream. So we're going to go ahead with the meeting. What we're going to do to sort of supplement that is that Annette just went to get her handheld recorder because just to make sure that we can go ahead. We can have a meeting and it's no requirement that it be live stream or for that matter that it be recorded, but we just think it's a good idea to have the audio on it. Oh, we're back to being live streamed. So watch what you say. So good evening. We're going to begin as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and a pledge. Tonight is January 10th, 2023. It's approximately 7 p.m. Appreciate the patience of some of y'all that are here. Like I said, we're going to begin as we typically do, and that's with a prayer and a pledge. Tonight, new Alderman from Ward 2, Mike Martin. He is going to lead us in prayer, and then I'll lead us in the pledge. Mike. Here we go.
God of love, be with us in our discussions. Give us insight and courage to do your will with compassion and reverence, as stewards and compassions for the benefit of our beloved city by the lake. Help us to know and believe in the gifts you have given us as trustees, both individually and collectively. Inspire us to solve the challenges we may face today. In faith and hope, we trust in your presence and guidance today. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Alderman Martin, thank you so much. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I'm going to entertain a motion to. I'm sorry. Let's call roll first, since we have a couple folks that aren't here.
Collins. Dixon. Here. Garton. Garza.
Here.
Goodwin.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Skidmore.
Here.
Waters. And Cleric.
Here.
That's 11.
So we have 11 people here. A majority is 6. A majority of the people here are 6. The majority of the remaining members is 6. And 2/3, which would be what we would need if we amend the agenda, is 8. So I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the agenda. I have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Skidmore. Any discussion on that? All in favor of approving the agenda that was provided to you in your packets over the weekend, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have a presentation. I appreciate Michelle Groves and Aaron Aaron's going to come in a minute, that are going to give us a presentation from United Way. We will have the opportunity for some discussion and some questions, but Michelle, I'm going to allow you to kick it off.
Thank you so much. Is this on? Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay. So thank you for letting us be here today. Let me see if I can get this. Oops, wrong button. Over 27,000 households in Sumner County earn just above the federal poverty level, but less than what it costs to make ends meet. We call them ALICE. ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. They're working, but it's not enough. And because they earn above the FPL, they often don't qualify for many types of public assistance. So what does it cost to make ends meet here in Sumner County? Based on our ALICE household survival budget, which takes into account the bare household necessities like things like housing and childcare and food, transportation, healthcare, and a basic smartphone plan because let's face it, at this point, we kind of all need smartphones to get by. It also includes taxes and a 10% contingency fund for savings. So all of that together for a family of 4 with 2 kids in childcare here in Sumner County costs $94,000 to survive. So you can see why there is over a $66,000 gap. That's why there's about 27,000 households who just don't always have what they need to make ends meet here. Now, in Sumner County, there are 3 zip codes that have higher than 50% of their households living under the Alice threshold: Westmoreland, Bethpage, and Portland. The largest zip code in the county is Hendersonville, and many consider that to be the most affluent city in the county. But even here in Hendersonville, we have 39% of our families living under the Alice threshold, and that represents about 10,000 families. Now, our Alice research has traditionally analyzed Alice households, but the newest data is more specific and it focuses on specific demographics within the Alice research. It's a series we call Alice in Focus, and so the first one I'm going to talk about tonight is Alice in Focus Children. It came out in 2022, and it's based on 2019 data, which is the most recent data we have available. It found that traditional measures of poverty have severely undercounted the number of children ages 18 and younger who are growing up in households that struggle to meet their basic needs. So in Sumner County, we have 48% of our children who are below the Alice threshold. You can see that the majority of those are in that Alice category. Now, Alice spans all communities, age groups, and races in Sumner County, but there were some disproportionate findings among specific groups. In our county, 76% of our kids are white, which makes it by far our largest racial group. 14,000 of those kids, that's about 43% of them, are living under the Alice threshold. Now, the population of the other races in Sumner County is smaller, but we found that the proportion of kids in homes struggling in those groups is higher. So almost 50% of Black children in Sumner County are under the Alice threshold. That number jumps to 58% for the Asian children, 70% for the children with 2 or more races. And the biggest disparity we found that is that 81% of our Hispanic children are living under the Alice threshold. And in fact, if they were a non-English speaking family, it was 100% that lived under the Alice threshold. Now, we found that families who own their own home tended to better than those who rent. The study found that 76% of our Sumner County kids live in owner households, and only 24% live in renter households. But 81% of the kids living in renter households were living under the Alice threshold as compared to 38% of the kids who were living in owner households. And remember, this is 2019 data. So this was before the pandemic, before skyrocketing mortgages and astronomical rent increases. So things have only gotten worse since this data came out. Now, the second segment of our series is people with disabilities, and it found that having a disability, whether it's apparent or non-apparent, cognitive or physical, is a substantial barrier to financial stability. So the task of defining disability can be complex, but how it's defined is extremely important because it has implications for people with disabilities, determining who has access to federal programs or protections under the law. And we found that individual experiences vary because some people don't want to be identified as having a disability because of real or perceived stigma. So for this study, we used the 2019 U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey descriptions of disabilities, and they found 6 categories, which are ambulatory, cognitive, hearing, vision, self-care difficulty, and independent living difficulty. So with that in mind, in Sumner County, there are over 28,000 disabled residents, and 52% of them are living under the Alice threshold. Now, for a variety of reasons, public assistance doesn't always reach the people who really need it the most. While most people in poverty usually qualify for public assistance, those in Alice households often earn too much to get public assistance. So government programs like Supplemental Security Income, SSI, are intended to provide financial assistance to people with disabilities who have limited income and resources, but the criteria are so limited that in Sumner County, only 10% of our disabled residents are actually receiving SSI benefits. And that's because the criteria show that they cannot have assets greater than $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for a married couple, and that level hasn't changed in 40 years. So because of that, of the 90% who are living without the benefit, 57% of them are struggling in households that can't always make ends meet. Now, it's a little bit better when we talk about SNAP benefits, which is formerly it's the food stamp program. The qualifications are a little better, but they still can't earn more than 130% of the FPL. So only 20% of our disabled residents are qualifying and using those benefits. So of the 80% who are not receiving SNAP benefits, 42% of them are under the ALICE threshold, which probably means they're often going hungry. So the third segment in our research is on ALICE and Focus veterans, and it found that even though they've served and sacrificed for our country, a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So we found that there are almost 12,000 veterans living in Sumner County, and 27% of them are under the ALICE threshold. The majority of them are in that ALICE group. When we look at it by age, 57% of our Sumner County vets are between the ages of 17 and 64, with 17% of them under the ALICE threshold. 43% of our Sumner County vets are over 65, and 40% of them live under the ALICE threshold. So the ALICE data found that veterans overall fared better financially than non-veterans. Statewide, there are 32% of our veterans under the ALICE threshold compared to 40% for those who never served. So it is slightly better if they're veterans. And one of the things we found that might influence that is that veterans are more likely than non-veterans to be employed full-time, to own their own home, and to have access to health benefits and disability coverage. So that probably affects their ability to afford the basics. So we're hoping we can learn some information from what we see in the veterans study to help the other groups, but the veterans study literally just came out near the end of last year. So we're still working on that one to get that put together for you. The packet I handed out to you before we started, you have the full hard copy of the InFocus Children report and the InFocus Disabilities report. And they're also available on our website at unitedwaysumner.org/ALICE. But we have one more bit of information that I want to leave with you. It's taken from our 211 service, and you also have a copy of our brochure about that. 211 is a free service we offer. It's confidential. It's available to the community 24/7. Literally, you just dial 211 on your phone, and it helps people find the local resources that they need. I pulled the latest data for 2022, and our 211 call center answered 1,864 calls in 2022 in Sumner County. Calls for help. 42% of those calls for help were for housing or shelter. Of those calls, of the 773 calls for housing and shelter, 37% of them were asking for help to pay their rent, 25% of them were homeless and looking for a shelter of some kind, and 22% of them were asking about low-income housing, low-cost housing. So Aaron Birch, our CEO, is going to leave you with a few final thoughts.
Good evening, Mayor, Alderman. Thank you for having us. As you can see, we've given you a lot of data this evening about the needs in our community. Our goals are twofold. One is to share this information with leaders in our community across the county so that we can all work together to help our community be better. Our hope tonight is that going forward, you'll remember that almost 40% of our city here in Hendersonville is actually struggling to make ends meet. And this will be in the back of your mind as you consider things like affordable housing, transportation, workforce, and affordable childcare. We also want to take the time to applaud you that even without all of this information, you made the great choice in rezoning the property that would allow the new Grace Place expansion. So thank you for that. Our mantra at United Way is give, advocate, volunteer, and you can help us advocate for ALICE in a couple of ways. In making decisions for our city with ALICE in mind, in talking to your constituents to help them understand the struggles of ALICE. First, for those who are ALICE, please connect them with us for the free resources we have available that can help. Often, ALICE families have been doing their best to get by for far so long that they don't even realize that there's help out there, or they feel like there are people who are worse off than them. So often they struggle in silence. And second, for those who can help, please encourage them to connect to us at United Way in Sumner County. We specialize in connecting resources to those in need. And we just thank you for this. And if there's any questions, we'll do our best to answer.
Any questions? Aaron and Michelle, is very helpful. I've seen this presentation now 3 times, and each time I've seen something new, so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
We have no public hearings. I'm going to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from the December 13th meeting. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second. I believe that was from Alderman Garden. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes that were provided to you over the weekend, the minutes for December 13th, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we're on to citizen comments. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, which time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's me, not to the alderman, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different views shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. Now, I don't consider that what we have going on tonight is running for public office. I consider that an appointment for alderman. We have one person that has signed up, and that's Takai Miller of Fieldcrest Circle.
Hello, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Takai Miller, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. My address is 142 Fieldcrest Circle in Mansker Farm. And I'm here with my group, my fellow neighbors here, also from Mansker Farm. I would like to strongly recommend that you vote for Andy Kazmarek to replace Russ Edwards. Not only do I think Andy will be an excellent alderman for our ward, I also believe he'll provide us with new direction and ideas, which is essentially what we voted for in the last election when the majority voted for Bob Garza. I believe Andy is the clear choice to work with Bob to help guide our community through the challenges and growth we are experiencing. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Takai, thank you. We have nothing on the consent agenda. Now we're on to ordinance and resolutions. I have nothing on my agenda under order. Is that correct? No. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we had something, but that was general committee. Okay. So other agenda items, we have election of Ward 3 aldermen. I feel confident that we're going to have 2 nominees, so I'm going to go ahead and put those out there right now. We do not need a second for nominations under Robert's Rules of Order. So I'm going to nominate Andy Kazmarek, I think I pronounced that correctly, and Jeff Sasse. Those are the only 2 people that we had any information of, the only 2 people that expressed any interest. Technically, if somebody wants to make another nomination, they're welcome to. However, if you do that, we would have to check and make sure they're qualified, which we haven't been able to do if you're just going to bring them up at this point. So we have both of those names, and as we've done in the past, and this is not required, but as we've done in the past, I'm going to suggest that we give them each 3 or 5 minutes to speak. 3, 5, what do y'all think? Okay, we'll go with 5. If they want to make it shorter, that's up to them. Okay. So we're going to suspend the rules without any objection to give both of them 5 minutes to speak. You have no obligation to speak. When we've done this in the past, we have not asked questions. Obviously, that's up to y'all if y'all want to ask questions. But it's something, again, if somebody asks you a question, you have no obligation to answer it. We don't have any power to force you to answer questions or even to speak for that matter. So without any objection, we'll go ahead and hear from them. Who's alphabetically first? Okay. Okay.
So again, good evening, Mayor, Alderman, I guess everybody else. Good evening. For those that don't know me, I'm fairly new to the area. 4 years. I am Andy Kazmarek. I know I've talked to some of you on the phone. Some of you I've never spoken with. But for obviously one of the big questions that was asked was why I applied for Alderman and what experience did I have that qualified me for the jobs of Alderman. So, professionally, I've been in management and leadership for over 15 years. in large manufacturing organizations. My primary responsibilities have been with reliability and asset management, both the facilities and the manufacturing equipment. So, you know, I've led departments as small as 5 associates and as large as 54 associates. I have been involved in formulating and implementing departmental budgets, as well as planning, budgeting, and executing both large and small capital projects. So, while I've never held any office in government, I do serve the community as much as I can, whether it's volunteering for as a soccer coach for 2 teams for the last 6 seasons, or it's just going over and because I heard one of our neighbors needed help installing a light because they didn't know how to do that. So, or it's using my truck to help a friend and neighbor in need who needs to get somewhere because, like in our snowstorm, when they couldn't get out, and so I jumped in the truck through the 4-wheel drive. So, you know, simple things like that. You know, it's little things that are impactful that I try and spread to our community. So, you know, up until now, it's not been formal, but I try and serve for Ward 3, for Hendersonville as a greater community wherever I can. And, you know, for all those reasons that I think I would be a great alderman. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm humbly asking for all your vote. Thank you.
Andy, thank you. Appreciate it. Jeff Sasse.
Hi, guys. Thanks a lot for having me up here today. First of all, I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Everyone out here as well. I believe 2023 is a monumental year for our city. My name is Jeff Sasse, and I live at 106 Villa Way in Ward 3. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about my application for the alderman position that was left open by the Honorable Russ Edwards. As many of you know, I recently ran for the Ward 3 seat. I lost that campaign to the now seated Bob Garza for Ward 3 Alderman. While disappointed that in my loss, I had gotten to know Bob during the campaign and felt confident he would represent our city and the citizens of Ward 3 well. However, with over 44% of the vote, or 176 votes, I felt I ran a good campaign and it was a close race. I spent many hours during the campaign speaking to citizens across all neighborhoods in Ward 3 and got a good grasp of the concerns and needs of the citizens. I'm ready and prepared to tackle those needs as a member of BOMA. Each ward needs strong representation. I believe they will have that by appointing me to the vacant seat. With Bob Garza getting 56% of the vote, combined with my 44%, seems to me a great opportunity for the citizens. They'll have 100%. I look forward to working with each of you and helping to keep our city a hometown community that we all love to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. So the way that state law requires we do this is that Annette will call the roll, and then we each vote either saying Kazmarek or Sasse. Is there any discussion? Anything you need to add? Yeah, does anybody want to nominate anybody else? Okay, so we just have those two nominations. That's Kazmarek and Sasse. I think we're ready.
Excuse me. Collins. Dixon. Garton. Garza. Goodwin. Martin.
Sasse.
Peterson.
Sasse.
Robertson. Skidmore. Waters. And Clary.
Sasse.
So that's none. for Sasse too. for
It's
council
92.
member.
Appreciate both of you putting your name up and applying for this. Andy, I think we're going to see you back in 2 weeks because now the opportunity to be on a beer board. Um, term that opportunity. Jeff, you have the opportunity to be sworn in right now. That would take us some, it'd take us some time to do that. There's really nothing else on the agenda that we really need, or we're going to have to vote on. We can do it afterward. We can do it tomorrow. We can do it if you want to have some friends and family here. We can do that anytime in the next 2 weeks. You want to do it now? We have to find an oath. Yeah, we have to find the oath. Okay. Okay. Annette has it. Okay. So, should we, so, I do. So why don't we take a 5-minute break? I need a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Goodwin. I need a second. And a second, where was that, from Alderman Garten, that we're going to take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll swear in Jeff Sasse. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're back. We had a small break there, and we have the oath here, and we have a Bible here. And Jeff, do you want to introduce who's with you? You got to speak right here.
This is my wife, Susan.
So Susan's going to help us out. Okay. You ready? Okay.
Left hand, right?
There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. Scoot closer to me. There we go. I state your name.
I, Jeff Sasse,
Do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I have all the qualifications
that I have all the qualifications
for the office of Alderman
for the office of Alderman
of the ward to which I was elected
for the ward for which I was elected
under the Mayor Aldermanic government
under the Mayor Aldermanic government
for the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee.
for the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee.
And I do solemnly swear
And I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Tennessee,
the Constitution of the state of Tennessee,
the Mayor Aldermanic Charter,
the Mayor Aldermanic Charter,
and the laws and duly enacted ordinances
and the laws and duly enacted ordinances
of the city of Hendersonville,
of the city of Hendersonville.
and that I will faithfully
And that I will faithfully
discharge the duties of this office.
discharge the duties of this office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Here's the Bible back.
Thank you. Oh, I gotta sign. So next item on the agenda are brief committee reports. Chairman Peterson, General Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. General Committee met tonight, and all commissioners were present, and we discussed ordinance 2023-01, an ordinance to establish an updated occupational safety and health program plan for the city. And it was voted unanimously, and it moves on to BOMA for further review. Our second item was Resolution 2023-01, a resolution authorizing the handmade market to renew its use here at City Hall. And last year, they had several events, and they have planned for this year 9 events. And that passed unanimously, and that as well moves on to BOMA. And we also discussed establishing a committee for the street lights, and that is, I believe, ordinance 2023-02. That did not come to BOMA tonight because of the 2-week rule, but look forward to having that in our packet on January 24th. And that's our committee meeting. Thank you.
Chairman Peterson, thank you. Next, we have a report from Alderman Martin for the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a very productive meeting this past week. We had the Planning Director, Keith Free, give a recap of 2002. Those numbers included 6 preliminary plats, 36 final plats, 10 preliminary development plans or amendments, 6 final development plans or developments, 2 combined development plans, and 57 site plans. These numbers are expected to stay about the same going into next year. The other item that he updated us on is the final Westlake plan. That has been updated and posted to the website, so feel encouraged to go to the planning website and download it. We were discussing having a meeting on in February to present it to the Planning Commission, but state laws requires a full 30 days. So what we did was we moved it to the March meeting, and so that meeting will be held on March 7th. The development plans that we had presented, we had Bellsford Landing, final development plan, a revision to what they had submitted before. It's a neighborhood. They had three changes to 3 areas of that plan that we reviewed. The first 2 were very simple and straightforward. The second one was the use of a open space, moving it around with 2 other homes. Ultimately, that was approved. And then the other project that we discussed was for Southern Nurseries, very accommodating owner and tenant. Are building a soil shed structure. It approved. They volunteered to stain the concrete and make the fabric that covers it a beige or a khaki color to kind of help it fit in. And at the end, we re-elected everybody to their positions for the new year moving forward. So we're honored to have Jeff Coker as the chairman, Tim Altizer as the vice chairman, Vanessa Silkwood as the secretary, and Charles Hasty as the assistant secretary. And that's it. That's
Thank you,
my
Mike.
report.
Appreciate that, Alderman Martin. Chief of Operations report.
Thank you, Mayor Clary. Congratulations, Alderman Sasse, on your appointment as Ward 3 Alderman. Just going to give you a quick update on the freezing temps we had and what happened to our buildings here at City Hall. We didn't have any damage. At our PD locations, we didn't have any damage. But at Fire Station number 5, we had a sprinkler line burst. Country Hills Golf Course had a water line that broke, as well as the concession stand at Volunteer Park. We don't have final estimates in on those, but the good news is they are all insured. So our deductible is $1,000. So whatever the cost is to repair, the cost to us is $1,000 because those are covered under our policy. They've been dried out, so we've already done some work at them to dry them out, and repairs will probably commence after we go out to bid on them. There was a traffic collision over the weekend on New Shackleton, Maine, and it completely destroyed the traffic control equipment that was out there. But one of our sergeants went above and beyond to do some good work. So I want to read an email that I got from Assistant Chief Jones. I'm going to paraphrase it a bit, but this is really to give kudos to one of our staffs. It says, "Sir, as you know, the PD provides commendations to our officers when they go above and beyond their duties or there are other special circumstances. I would like to make a request for accommodation for Sergeant Josh Morrison. When he was advised this morning by the Stanzel Tech, there are on-call traffic signal technicians, that the traffic control boxes were on back order. He immediately began seeking an alternate solution. Because of that accident, they ran over the cabinet that controls the signal there, completely destroyed it, all the equipment inside of it, and those boxes were on substantial back order. So Sergeant Morrison reached out to multiple sources and became aware that Goodlettsville had recently replaced all of their control boxes and reached out to them as well. Goodlettsville was the first to respond, and Sergeant Morrison emailed the information to Ms. Locke, our Public Works Director. And because of that, they were able to grab a controller box from a spare that Goodlettsville had, and they had the signal up and operational that day. So thanks to City of Goodlettsville and our Sergeant Josh Morrison for really kind of going above and beyond what he couldn't be here tonight, but we'll be sending him the clip. But he does a great job. He's a lot of behind the scenes and type, things like this you wouldn't really know about unless we presented them to you, and we don't have the time to present all those to you. But we really appreciate him, and because of that, all the residents in the city probably got that traffic. That traffic was operational probably, a lot sooner than it would have been if he hadn't done that work. We do have a traffic engineer position that's open. It's currently been open for 2 years. We've had 0 applicants, and it's a substantial salary. It ranges from $83,000 to $126,000 a year. But there just hasn't been a lot of interest And I think this is across the board with government jobs right now. We do have an interview tomorrow with an assistant city engineer potential, so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. And then we're continuing to get applications in for finance director too. So we're going to schedule another round of interviews for finance director as well. Then just a couple of updates. The mid-year budget's coming up, so we'll have a finance committee on January 24th where we discuss mid-year budgets. And then we'll have a BOMA workshop February 6th where we go over mid-year budgets as well. And then the annual comprehensive financial report was completed. So we'll have a presentation of that at the next finance committee as well. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for our CEO? Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Jesse, I didn't give you a heads up before, and if not, you can just give us a report afterwards. But I understand during the snow and the cold weather that there was a outage for Code Red that maybe the whole county experienced. And if you don't have a report on that now, if you could just get us something, in an email later about the duration and make sure that it's up and working now, because a lot of citizens count on that in times of storm and bad weather.
Yeah, I know we did try to put out 2 code reds, and one ended up going through. So I'll get a report on code red and let you know when it was on and when it was off.
Any other questions for our CEO? Jesse, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Sasse, would you like to make a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
So we have a motion from Alderman Sasse to adjourn. I have a second from Alderman Collins. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes.